Hey guys, how's it going? We hope you're enjoying your Sunday or whatever day you're watching this. Today, I actually came up with an idea, and I hope it doesn't fall flat like all of my other ideas do. Typically, whenever Maria has an idea, it does better. But yeah, we'll see how this one goes. So we thought of a topic that's pretty interesting, but it's very extensive. So we want to break it up into two parts. Part 1 and part 2, and it's going to be covering all the things that really make us different and how
it's affected us in good ways, bad ways, all of that.
And yeah.
So basically, we just recently got on the topic of just how our lives have really evolved over the last 3 years, and just how crazy it is that we have 2 babies already and just everything like that. But it kind of led from one thing to the next, and we were just talking about how people, when we first started dating, just really had their opinions and negative opinions as far as us being together, and specifically because of the differences in our upbringings. And so yeah, we just figured we would share a little bit about our experience with that, and yeah, just kind of how we proved them wrong. We're coming up on our 3-year anniversary. January 13th is our wedding anniversary, so kind of goes along with that too. We're just kind of talking about how much we've learned about each other over the last 3 years. It's crazy how when you're dating someone for a while, and even when you're engaged, you think you know somebody, and then once you're married, just things just keep coming, you just keep finding more and more things about each other, and but yeah, so we'll just kind of get into it.
So yeah, we said we're going to break this into part 1, part 2. So in this first part, we're really going to talk about our childhood and our early adolescence or early adulthood, meaning high school. So to begin, our childhood, even though we basically grew up in the same city/state, we had completely different childhoods. I was raised by a single mom, and my only sibling was my sister, who's my younger sister, who's 8 years younger than me. I went to daycare at 3 years old. My mom had to work a lot, so I spent a lot of time with other kids in similar situations as me as far as having daycare, and I went to public school as in elementary school, so I came across a bunch of different walks of life, different kids in different situations where they might not necessarily have had the same thoughts as my mom did, or I had adversity from an early age, basically. Everybody knows how public school is, and if you didn't go to public school, it's not as crazy as they make it out to seem in the movies or anything like that, but there is a hierarchy, and there's social cliques, and it's really easy to see where people kind of line up in them and how people end up in those certain cliques. It's kind of interesting. It's because there's nothing that you don't go to school with a name tag. It's I belong in this clique. It's
right. It just happens.
It just kind of happens. You fall into that
with who you
people you're with. So yeah, that was my early childhood. I played a lot indoors. I played a lot of video games. I watched movies. But yeah, for the most part, that was my childhood.
Yeah.
Oh, I also was kind of weird. I only had one friend in every grade. It was weird until I hit middle school-ish. Every for kindergarten, first grade, second grade, I only had one friend, and they were my best friend, and that's the only friend I wanted.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's super bizarre. So I don't know. Maybe some of you out there were like that, but yeah, that was me.
Okay, and for me, I grew up literally 100% opposite. I grew up in a big family, so I am one of 7 kids. I'm the 3rd oldest. But yeah, I pretty much grew up here in Colorado Springs my whole life. I moved here for the 2nd time with my family when I was 5. So a lot of my early memories are out here. But where I'm originally from, it's a really small town called Sugar Creek, Ohio, and pretty much all of my extended family on my mom and dad's side still live back there, except for one of my mom's sisters. She lives out here, but yeah, so we go back there and visit at least once a year, a lot. So yeah, it's just a completely different lifestyle. There's lots of Amish people where I grew up lots of Mennonite people. My parents actually came from the Mennonite community. So for those of you who don't really know what that is, it's just basically a religion. You have to follow like certain guidelines within the church that you attend, and it's like really any other religion, but it's maybe a little more strict than a typical religion.
Yeah, what is it? You wear a head veiling if you're a girl.
Yeah, so you wear like cape dresses, you wear a head veiling, like there's only certain things that you can have on your dresses and stuff like that, but it just really kind of depends. Like I said, within your church there's certain things that are approved and not approved for even the same religion. So yeah, so coming out here, I was only 5, like I said, so my childhood was very carefree. I was homeschooled. I just played with my siblings a lot. We honestly, they were my friends. Like we didn't really have a lot of community at that time because we did just move out here. So me and my siblings just hung out all the time. I would go outside and my imagination would just run wild. I would build forts and I would play cops and robbers. I would I would set up like restaurants and stuff in the house for like my siblings to ride on their scooters and stuff to come through by the window, and I would make them food in the kitchen, and it would be like I was running a little restaurant. I would just my imagination went wild, and I just just had a very carefree and happy and just fun childhood, I'd say. But with that, I didn't really have a lot of interaction with other people outside of just like super close, like family friends, but they all had similar childhoods to me. They all like thought the same as me, and so yeah, it was just different in that sense. I didn't really have an idea of what was out there and the fact that people could have different opinions than me. So yeah, I really didn't have much diversity at all. I just kind of lived in my little bubble, and that's just kind of where I stayed for a long time.
Yeah, no one ever came against you.
Yeah, not at all. I just like I said, I was shocked whenever I found out that people think differently than me. I'm like, what? People that believe the same thing I do? Like, that makes no sense. Like, what?
High school. Oh, goodness. High school is a beast in itself, I truly feel like. I feel like it's the first, like, I don't know, because you're secure enough in yourself to know a little bit, but you're still really trying to find yourself in the same bit. Like, because you've been through middle school, so now you know the social dynamic and you know kind of where you fit in. But then high school, you go back in and you're bottom of the totem pole again, and you're trying to figure everything out, and you're like, don't know where you fit in still, because it's a forever challenge, really. Yes, high school was really where things started changing for me as far as like my friends. I went from having like a small group of friends to a bigger group of friends, and I started to just mingle with everybody, really, for the most part. I went to a high school that's out in the country for my first 2 years, and then I went for my last 2 years back into the city for high school. But yeah, it was completely different from how your high school experience was. Like, my high school experience was centered around friends and like partying, and even like when it comes to dating, it was really different.
Yeah.
For both of us. Like, I really started, I feel like, actually dating in high school. I've always loved football, so I played football in high school, and that's kind of where I found my niche as far as like the social dynamics go. But in the same sense, I felt like since I was raised by a single mom, I feel like high school was right when I really needed like a male role model, a male father figure, and I didn't have one. So I felt like I started getting really rebellious in high school, and since I wanted that male like companionship, I really just stuck with my friends. Like, I would literally do whatever they would need me to do. I would do things like they were my brothers, and they understood me at a level that like my mom couldn't, or nobody really else could. So it was like we built a really tight bond over that. But in the same sense, it was unhealthy because we were all looking for fulfillment in things that aren't able to sustain us, nor are they really healthy. So it led us down an interesting path, a more difficult path. I suffered with some depression in high school for sure, especially like my freshman, sophomore years. I think it was really, really hitting me at that point. But yeah, overall though, I enjoyed high school. I was barely in class because I was always just wanting to hang out with my friends, but the
social aspect.
Yeah, the social aspect was great. Didn't really care for the education too much, but like the relationships were great. So
Okay, and then for me, for high school, I said I was homeschooled. I did go to a few like charter schools here and there, so I would go, I think it was like Tuesday, Wednesday every week. I would go for pretty much all day. It was like a normal day at school for other kids, but I played volleyball, and I was able to play through another one of my homeschool leagues, basically. But yeah, still, everybody that I was surrounded with just were very similar to me. Like, in the way that we thought and all of that, and our upbringings and everything. When I turned 16, I had my first boyfriend. I guess that's kind of late for some people. 16 is pretty late.
yeah.
But for me, looking back, I'm like, wow, 16 was like I think about our girls, and I'm like, 16 is kind of young when I think about our girls. But yeah, so I had my first boyfriend, and then I started working at Starbucks, or within that time, I started working at Starbucks, and that's where I met Damar. And that is when I really started to kind of just see like reality, you know, as far as the fact that people don't think the same way as me. We should go get Tatum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tatum's
Maria's gonna finish while I go get Tatum. She's screaming upstairs, but not like crying. She's just like,
like, come get me.
yeah.
But yeah, so that was kind of when I got hit with just, reality of like, wow, people really don't think like me. They don't believe the same things that I do and that I was raised believing. And so that just really, that was hard on me. That was really hard on me because I just started to question a lot, you know. I was just like, well, you know, why is it that I feel this way so strongly, but then somebody else feels so strongly in the opposite way? So yeah, there was a lot of things, like a lot of self-discovery over that time where I was just like trying to figure out what for sure I do believe and trying to make the things that I believe my own rather than just stuff that was told to me by my parents, you know? But yeah, so I was also very social. I was really involved in my church that I would gone to at the time. So I was, Tatum, what are you doing, stinker baby? So yeah, I was really involved in my church. I would go to youth group every Wednesday. I would go to church on Sundays, and then even my homeschool group was at the church too. So I was at the church like probably 4 to 5 times a week. That was just where I hung out like all the time. So I guess I'll just kind of leave it at that for now.
So yeah, I mean, these differences, of course, are basically what makes you as a person.
Yeah.
You know, so like I see it come through a lot in a bunch of different areas. Like, for instance, the girls. We talk about all the time, are we going to public school or are we going to homeschool? Like the most basic one. And, you know, we could take each side of our experiences and make it into a strength. Like, I love how homeschooling does allow you to help your kids find that foundation and help them be more secure in themselves before you just kind of unleash them into the world. But in the same sense, I want the girls to have some adversity when they grow up. I want them to be able to come home and tell me like what's going on at school or if they're having any hard times. And I feel like there's even sometimes a confidence that's built with public school that you know you can take care of yourself and you can handle yourself.
You get thicker skin
in the real world. Yeah.
But yeah, how it's affected us in the great scheme of things, like I would say it was hard as far as just like things that like because of the extreme opposites for us, it was like when he would tell me certain things, it was just like a shock in a sense, because it was like like, it's just a whole nother world that I had never experienced. And so it was hard for me to, like, kind of figure out where his heart was at the time, because I never had experienced some of the hard things that he had. And, but yeah, so just, like, relating in that sense, it was really hard.
But you did a very good job of, like, understanding, of listening. And I feel like even though you couldn't understand, I felt like you were never, like, judgmental.
Yeah, I really had just so much, like love for you, even at that time. I just, like, I say that I didn't know where your heart was, and, like, but at the same time I did. Like, I saw that we went through a period of time before we had started dating. We had gone on our first date, and then within a certain amount of time, we decided to, like, stop talking and everything. Mm-hmm. But we didn't really, like, 100% stop. Like, we had still worked together at Starbucks and everything. But over that time is when I was just, like, really, you know, choosing him. And we had like, multiple conversations where he would spend hours just telling me all kinds of different experiences that he had throughout high school, and just choices that maybe he wasn't just, like, the most proud of. And he shared everything with me. And just with him being willing to do that, it just made me see that, okay, like, you know, his heart is good. You know, he may have made decisions that, like, weren't the best or whatever, but we all do, you know? And so that just really, like, opened my eyes to see that, like, I'm not perfect either, you know? That was over that time also where I was just like, you know, like, I might think I have it all together, and I might have grown up to think that. I'm just as guilty of things that, like, I'm not proud of. And so yeah, it was really good for me and my family to see that, like, different isn't always bad, and it can be really good. So
I feel like to summarize it all, there's a balance that can be found with two different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
If you allow it to, but it's easy. I feel like it's hard to do that. It's easier to let it tear you apart. To just like, oh, you're too different, and I don't understand where you're coming from or why you are that way.
Why you think that way.
Yeah. Like, it's easier to do that, but if you can, I feel like, look at the heart of the situation and see that there's a strength that can come from it, because that's where the value's found.
For sure.
So yeah, we say this to encourage those of you who are out there dating or, you know, engaged or married, and you're just like, man, we are just so opposite.
You're coming across those opposites and being like, I don't know about this. Or you have people telling you that, you know,
that
it's
you're
not
never
going to
make it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you know what? Just, if it's meant to be, it'll be. And that's our case. You know, it was meant to be. And everything that had happened needed to happen, you know, in the way that it did. Because we probably, if we would have met 2 years earlier, we probably wouldn't have ended up together. Because there were so many things that within those 2 years before we had met, we were going through individually, and we needed to go through the motions of everything. But so yeah, just trust the process.
And I think that if you guys' major foundations are that, like, I don't think I mean, anything's possible, but at least for us, like, we're different in a lot of, like, different places. But, like, our core foundations, how we think we should love one another, like, what do we think our marriage should look like the big pillars are the same.
Yeah.
So we can work on, like, okay, well, this is not, like, a foundational piece. We can work with it and figure out how to make it work.
No, that is a good point.
But yeah, well.
Yeah, we are going to make this into a part 2, so we're going to finish, like, talking about the last few pieces of it. But so make sure you look out for that video, the part 2 of this, because it gets real juicy.
Yeah, well, we love you guys. Thank you for watching another video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Our social medias will be linked down below. Tate, take us out. Hightower family, out.
Let's see the peace sign.
Oh, it's going to be hard.
Out.